The hallway buzzed with the kind of energy only the first day of school could bring. Half excitement, half chaos. But none of that mattered to 8-year-old Emma Parker as she stepped through the front doors of Brooklyn Elementary. Her small fingers curled tightly around the strap of her backpack, her other hand adjusting the tiny device clipped behind her ear. Her hearing aid, her lifeline, and also her target. Children laughed and chattered all around her, but Emma couldn't catch most of it, just blurred noises, muffled tones. She had grown used to the isolation, though that didn't make it any easier. Her blue eyes flicked from one unfamiliar face to another, searching for safety, for kindness, but finding only sideways glances and stifled whispers. Ashley Moore stood near the locker, arms crossed, surrounded by 2 girls who seemed to laugh just a second too loudly. Ashley was tall for her age, confident, and unmistakably in charge. Her gaze locked onto Emma's hearing aid almost immediately, her lips curving into a smirk that carried too much cruelty for a 4th grader. Emma tried to pass unnoticed, heading to the cafeteria where her grandmother had packed her favorite lunch in a neat pink bento box. Rice balls shaped like bears and a tiny note that read, "You're brave. Love, Nana." She hadn't even opened the lid when Ashley's hands swept across the table, knocking it to the ground. Rice scattered across the floor like fallen petals. A stunned silence followed, and Emma stood frozen, her tears burning with humiliation, her hands trembling as tears welled up. That was the exact moment the glass doors at the front of the school flung open, and Max appeared, a massive German shepherd with deep amber eyes and a presence that instantly quieted the room. Max didn't bark. He didn't growl. He simply walked forward with slow, deliberate steps straight toward Emma. Gasps rippled through the cafeteria as Max entered. His thick fur matted slightly from morning dew, his massive frame nearly filling the doorway. The overhead lights caught the silver strands along his muzzle, the quiet power in his step, and something in his eyes, something ancient, watchful, and full of intent. Ashley backed up instinctively, her smirk faltering for the first time. Her friends clutched at her sleeves, suddenly unsure. Max didn't bark or bare his teeth. He didn't need to. He stopped just in front of Emma, positioning his body sideways between her and the others, his tail still, his head slightly lowered. Protective, unyielding. Emma blinked in disbelief, wiping her tears with the back of her sleeve. "Max," she whispered. The giant shepherd turned his head to look at her, as if answering, "I'm here." From the hallway, a teacher hurried in, breath catching at the sight. "Whose dog is this?" she called out, half panicked, already reaching for her walkie-talkie. Emma took a breath and stepped forward. "He's mine," she said, her voice soft but steady. "His name is Max. He's my service dog." It wasn't entirely true. Max hadn't been officially registered. Not yet. But he was her protector, her companion, the last gift from her mom Caroline before the cancer took her away. Max had never left Emma's side since. The room remained silent as Max calmly nudged his nose against Emma's hand, ignoring the scattered lunch around them. The moment felt strangely sacred. One girl, one dog, and a whole cafeteria full of eyes suddenly seeing something different. Max wasn't just a pet. He was her guardian. And today, for the first time, Emma wasn't alone. The buzz of excitement filled the school gymnasium as folding tables lined the walls, each one topped with colorful posters, bubbling volcano models, and solar system mobiles hanging by thread. The Brooklyn Elementary Science Fair had finally arrived, and for Emma Parker, it meant everything. Her project stood proudly near the center. "Do dogs feel what we feel?" The display board was neatly arranged with hand-drawn charts, graphs of heart rate data, and photos of Max responding to her emotions, nuzzling her when she cried, placing his head in her lap when she was anxious. Each interaction was tracked and recorded. It was more than a project. It was her truth. Ashley hovered near the snack table, watching with narrowed eyes. She hadn't spoken much to Emma since the cafeteria, but Emma could feel the stares, the heat of silent resentment. When a group of students stopped to admire her project and ask about Max, Emma smiled shyly, pride blooming on her face. That's when it happened. While Emma stepped away to speak to a teacher about her presentation schedule, someone unseen ripped one of her graphs down the middle. Another board was smeared with juice, dripping slowly down onto Max's printed photo. A soda can was overturned, soaking the paper beneath. Emma returned to find her table in ruins. She froze for a second. No breath came. Then her eyes welled up, her hands trembling as she reached for the ruined photos. The pain cracked through her chest. Without a word, Emma turned and ran from the gym, down the hallway, past the lockers, and out into the cold air beyond the school's side doors. Far away, nearly 7 miles across town, Max, left temporarily with Emma's grandmother, lifted his head. His ears twitched. Then, without hesitation, he bolted toward the front door. Something was wrong, and nothing would stop him from getting to her. The wind howled through the empty side courtyard as Emma sat curled on the cold concrete steps, her back pressed to the brick wall, her knees drawn tightly to her chest. Tears streaked her cheeks, but she made no sound, not even a sob. She was used to silence. Most of her world already lived in it. She didn't hear the rustling from the far end of the yard. She didn't hear the click of claws against pavement. But she felt it. Emma looked up just as Max bounded around the corner, fur bristling, tongue lolling, eyes locked on her like a missile guided by pure instinct. 7 miles. 4 fences. 1 busy road. Somehow, he had made it. He skidded to a stop in front of her, nosing her arm, then her face, as if counting the tears. Then he laid down beside her, pressing his warm side against her trembling frame. "How did you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "How did you know?" Inside the gym, the sudden arrival of a large German shepherd sent shrieks through the air. Teachers scrambled. Students stepped back in alarm. But Max didn't care. He pushed through the crowd with quiet determination, ignoring the chaos around him, until he stood in front of Emma's ruined project display. He sat down, not in panic, not in protest, but in protest of pain. In solidarity, Mrs. Carlson, the science teacher, approached cautiously. "Is this Emma's dog?" she asked, glancing between Max and the shredded project board. Ashley stood frozen nearby, the color draining from her face. Max didn't bark. He didn't move, but his presence said everything. Someone had hurt Emma, and he had come, not for vengeance, but to be seen, to show that love could cross any distance. The morning sky above Hillcrest Nature Reserve was a canvas of gray clouds streaked with sunlight, and the air carried the scent of damp leaves and pine. Emma hesitated near the edge of the trail, adjusting her backpack, her ankles still sore from the emotional weight of the week before. She hadn't wanted to come. Field trips were never her thing, and certainly not ones that involved long hikes, bug spray, and pretending everything was fine. But Mrs. Carlson had gently encouraged her. "Nature helps us breathe," she had said. Emma had nodded, not fully convinced. Max wasn't allowed this time. School policy, they'd said. Not a service dog. Not official. Emma had protested, but in the end, she came alone. Ashley walked a few paces ahead, chatting loudly, tossing glances back at Emma like daring glances thrown over a shoulder. It hadn't stopped. Not really. At a rest stop deep into the forest path, the group gathered to eat. Emma found a quiet rock beneath a tall tree and unwrapped her sandwich. Ashley walked by, her voice low enough for only Emma to hear. "Should have brought your bodyguard, freak." Emma said nothing. She was tired of fighting battles no one else could hear. But as the group prepared to move again, then a scuffle broke out. Loud, sudden, unbalanced. Ashley turned, annoyed. "You're in my way again." Emma tried to step back, but her foot caught on a root. Before she could find her balance, Ashley shoved her too hard. Emma tumbled to the ground, her ankle twisting at a cruel angle, a sharp cry escaping her lips as pain surged through her leg. The rest of the group had already started walking. No one saw her fall. By the time Emma opened her eyes again, the forest around her was silent. The laughter of her classmates faded into the trees, and she was alone. The sun dipped lower behind the trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Emma lay motionless on a bed of damp leaves, her face pale, her breath shallow. Her twisted ankle throbbed with every heartbeat, and the pain had spread like fire through her small frame. She tried calling out once, twice, but her voice barely carried. No one came. Somewhere far from Hillcrest, Max stirred. He had been pacing near the door of Emma's home all morning, uneasy, his ears twitching, nose lifting every few seconds as if catching something no human could sense. Then, without warning, he lunged at the door, barking once, deep and sharp. Emma's grandmother reached for her coat, but before she could stop him, Max bolted through the side gate and into the street, running like he knew exactly where to go. Through traffic, across fields, down winding gravel paths. 7 miles of instinct and love. By the time the park ranger received the call about a lost student, Max had already slipped through the edge of the reserve, nose to the ground, weaving through pine and bramble, each step faster than the last. Emma was drifting in and out of consciousness when she felt it, a soft nudge against her hand. Her eyes fluttered open to see Max's familiar face above her, his eyes wide and glistening. "Max," she whispered, barely audible. He licked her cheek once, then turned, barking sharply. 1, 2, 3 urgent calls. Not wild, not panicked, purposeful, like a signal flare in the form of sound. Within minutes, a search team, alerted by park rangers and a panicked teacher, followed the sound. Flashlights caught movement through the brush. "There!" someone shouted. Emma was found curled beside Max, her hand resting in his fur. She was safe because he had come. The smell of antiseptic and warm sheets filled Emma's hospital room. Her ankle had been treated and wrapped, and though the pain lingered, it was dulled by medication. And by Max, who lay curled at the foot of her bed, his tail gently thumping against the mattress with every breath she took. It was quiet now, peaceful. But the peace wouldn't last. Outside, in the west wing of Brooklyn Community Hospital, something went wrong. An old power unit near the storage room overloaded. Sparks ignited wires. Flames climbed the drywall before the fire alarm ever screamed. Within minutes, smoke poured through the hallways, swallowing fluorescent lights and clouding the air with panic. Emma sat up, coughing. Max's ears shot up instantly. He was on his feet before the second alarm sounded. Staff ran by, shouting directions. "Evacuate. Get to the stairwell." But in the confusion, doors slammed, pathways closed, and chaos took hold. 2 floors away, Ashley Moore had just been released from minor surgery for appendicitis. Alone in a supply room, still drowsy from anesthesia, she awoke to the faint scent of burning plastic and the heavy haze creeping beneath the door. She tried the handle. Pluck. Her chest tightened. Max darted from Emma's room, weaving between legs and pushing against smoke. He paused at every hallway, nose high searching, until he stopped at the base of a locked door where Ashley lay trapped inside. "Help!" she pounded weakly, her voice cracking. "Please, somebody!" Max barked, loud, urgent. He scratched at the base, pacing. A nurse turned the corner. "There's someone in there," she shouted. A janitor rushed with keys. The door flew open, and thick smoke rolled out. Ashley stumbled forward and froze. Max stood in front of her, as if waiting. Their eyes locked. Her lips parted. You came back again." He stepped aside, nudging her gently toward the exit. Moments later, Emma and Ashley emerged side by side through the emergency tunnel beneath the hospital, led by Max's steady paw and quiet bravery. That night, as flames were extinguished and fear settled into reflection, a shift occurred. Ashley saw not just a dog, but a rescuer. And for the first time, she saw Emma too, not as someone different, but someone strong. The following morning, a soft golden light filtered through the hospital blinds. The building was calm again. Smoke had cleared. Alarms had fallen silent. In room 204, Emma sat beside Max, gently running her fingers through the thick fur at his neck. He hadn't left her side once. There was a knock at the door. Emma looked up to see Ashley standing in the doorway, her hospital gown replaced by jeans and a sweatshirt. She looked different, not just from the night before, but from every day before that. Her eyes held something new, vulnerability, and maybe courage. "Hey," Ashley said, hesitating. "Can I come in?" Emma nodded slowly. Max didn't move, only watched with steady calm. Ashley stepped forward and sat in the chair across from her. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, voice cracking slightly. "For what?" "For what Max did. For what you did." Emma looked down, unsure what to say. "I was mean," Ashley continued. "I knew it. I didn't want to admit it. But I was just mad that people liked your project, that Max made people feel something. I guess I was jealous." Silence passed between them. Not heavy, just honest. Ashley reached out, resting her hand gently on Max's paw. "I want to help now, with whatever you and Max are doing." At that moment, Dr. Henry Moore, Ashley's father, appeared in the hallway, looking for his daughter. As he stepped inside the room, his eyes fell on Max, and something shifted in his expression. "Wait a second," he murmured, stepping closer. "This dog." He knelt down slowly, squinting at Max's eyes, then the small scar near his front leg. "I treated a German Shepherd puppy with that scar 8 years ago," he said softly. "A stray. Broken leg. Caroline Parker adopted him." He paused, emotion catching in his throat. He was so small then, but even back then, he had those eyes. Emma's breath caught. Max lifted his head, his tail tapping once against the floor. Recognition passed between man and dog like a spark, silent but undeniable. Dr. Moore stood, exhaling slowly. He was always special. Days later, the school board met. The fire, the rescue, the bravery. It had spread across the community like wildfire. Letters poured in, parents, teachers, neighbors. And finally, the decision was unanimous. Max would be officially welcomed as a therapy dog at Brooklyn Elementary. Emma and Ashley, once opposites, now worked side by side, launching a new school program. Paws for Kids, helping other students find confidence and comfort through animals. On the first day of the program, Emma looked at Max, her friend, her hero, and whispered, "We made it, didn't we?" Max wagged his tail, then rested his head gently against her hand. In that quiet moment, surrounded by laughter, new friendships, and second chances, it was clear. One dog's love had not only saved a girl, it had brought a community back together.